Tired of feeling tired and low-level pain that plagues your knees and hips? Listen close as our guest today will share with us her three secrets to pain-free living. Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches, as well as spiritual entrepreneurs, stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and the huge audience we have over on the Gnostic TV network. Today, we are chatting with Ellen Livingston. Ellen is a natural health wellness mentor, and she helps people become pain-free while rediscovering their natural, high-energy, healthy body and peaceful heart. And she is also the author of The Ultimate Raw Food Diet and Detox Wellness Program, as well as the book Following Nature Home. Welcome to the show, Ellen. I am looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks, Jill. Me too.
Okay, so are you ready for the big question to start us
Okay.
off? Okay. What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
So you just mentioned this a minute ago. So this is my just sort of off the cuff response.
Yeah.
That outer peace starts with inner peace. So the most important thing we can do to make an impact in the outer world around us is to take responsibility for the vibrational quality that we're putting out, right? And so it's really doing the work, the inner work for ourselves. It will have
And
magnanimous effects outward.
and
Yeah,
so do you think that diet plays a big part in this?
it certainly can. It has for me and for many people I've worked with, because if you think about it, um, there's a vibrational quality to the food that we eat. And it's either a very low vibration food, like, a McDonald's hamburger, or a very high vibration food, like a fresh mango off the tree. And that matters in our bodies. So, yes.
It does matter. And you can take all the supplements you want, but really the best way to get nutrition is by eating it.
Yes.
We're designed that way.
You can't really make up for it with just supplements.
You can't, and you can actually end up poisoning yourself because sometimes you're taking supplements that really need other things in order to make those supplements effective and
Mhm.
not poisoning yourself. I'm gonna
Well,
tell
I
on
kind
my
of think about
husband.
it this way, like if we trust Mother Nature, and I really focus on that with my clients, getting them deeper into nature. When we begin to really trust Mother Nature, it makes sense that the food that she's provided for us is already in a kind of perfect synergistic relationship with the nutrients with each other. And when we separate out those nutrients in pharmaceutical supplements, we don't really know what we're doing. It's kind of a game that we're playing, because
Right.
they were meant to work synergistically in the package that nature provided them in, right?
And then we start adding other interventions into our systems, and then everything starts getting out of whack. And your body is a self-regulating organism, and it tries to make up for you could add too much zinc to your diet. We need zinc. Zinc is really helpful if you're sick, but taking zinc every day is going to have other other ramifications, especially if you're getting it in your diet. It, it's kind of
Well,
a
I'm glad you
vicious
pointed
circle.
that out, because the crux of the work I do for myself and the people I work with is to get out of our own way and to reconnect with the natural way that's always trying to work us toward perfect health. I mean, we're born and designed to grow and thrive and to be, like you said, self-healing and self-regulating, and our body likes to be in a kind of homeostasis, and we just get in its way. We're constantly challenging it. And with food, if we're not eating the food that we're designed to eat biologically, then we're challenging it multiple times a day, and it's all it can do is just try to keep up with cleaning house after each one of those difficult to digest and process and utilize meals. I used to liken it to when I first became a single mom many years ago, and I had three little kids, and it was like it was all I could do just to keep up with all the daily stuff of taking care of the kids. Never does a mother or a single mother of little kids have a chance to like deep clean a closet, right? You're just keeping
Yeah.
up with the moment by moment. And that's what we do to our body. It doesn't get to cleanse at the level it's fully capable of when we're constantly bombarding it with another difficult, inappropriate substance or thought for that matter. So,
And they all work together, your
yes,
thoughts and
absolutely.
your what you take in, what you're listening to, and what you're even what you're putting on your body in terms of clothing. It
Mhm.
really does make a difference because even the fibers of your clothing have a vibration that affects your vibration. If you're wearing things that make you feel bad, take them off, preferably in your own room.
The good news that I discovered along the way is that we have an essence that's unchanging. And that no matter what we've done to ourselves along the way in the messy path of life, that still remains for us to get back in touch with. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there waiting for us to, just remove the shackles and all the obstacles and clean up our diet and clean up our thoughts. And one of the most powerful fast track paths to that ability and that awareness is to get out in nature, to go barefoot, to get natural sunshine on our bodies, to get into peaceful nature, big nature, I call it. I try to do that every day. I'm very fortunate where I live right now in Southern Florida to have a little dirt road that I live on, and I walk 1 block and I'm in a park with miles of trails along the bay. And so I walk through there barefoot every day. And it's just, and then if I have some frustration come up during the day and I'm feeling myself getting disconnected, I hop on my bike and go down and watch the sunset in the evening on the water. And it doesn't have to be that, but whatever's near you, whatever nature you can begin to have as your go-to kind of reconnection space, because I don't know, there's something about the big sky, the stars at night, the forest. We all know this instinctually that we're in that spot. Some of our cares drop away, or we get a fresh sense of a bigger perspective on our life. And if we do that enough, I can't stress this enough. If we do that on a regular basis, we start to catch these glimpses of this more connected way of being that's not about all the things on our to-do list, but it literally sort of awakens our senses to something more real. Our world is so full of unreality right now, it seems. It's so topsy-turvy and unpredictable and sort of seemingly insane at times. And so nature continues to be sane and real and a place that we can return to in a way to connect with that possibly hidden self that is really, once we connect with that essence, then we sort of know. We just sort of have this primal knowing about what food is real and what food isn't real. And we start to tap into that feeling of a greater, more grounded, peaceful heart. Slowly but surely, we start to get more glimpses of that. And when we begin to glimpse it, we want it, right? It's like when you start a yoga practice, and in the beginning, it's hard to show up on the mat. But once you've done it a few times, you start to want to be there because it starts to feel so sort of yummy to be connecting with that best friend inner guidance self that we have, where we're connecting with the greater wisdom. And that's how we get resilient, that's how we get grounded, that's how we start to glimpse little bits of clear messages about what we need. We tend to go seek external advice all the time. We go to a doctor, we go to a healer, we go to an herbalist, we go to a dietitian, and that's good because maybe we need some guidance there. But at some point, inevitably, we have to tap into our own inner guidance system that will tell us what it is that we need to do. I mean, I had the unfortunate but blessed experience in a way, because it made me who I am today, of having a bunch of health problems show up when I was younger that nobody could figure out. And so I couldn't get answers out there. And finally, I went to a doctor for a digestive ailment, and he said it has nothing to do with what you're eating. And that just didn't make sense at all. And so in that moment, I said, I'm going to go do my own research. And so I
Yeah.
began through the books and the workshops and things, and ultimately it led me to just listening to myself. And in order to do that, we have to get quieter. And until we get quieter, there's so much noise out there. We're like ping pong balls, looking for the next advice from somebody outside of ourselves. And it's frustrating because, how many times have you gotten advice from somebody that you really felt was spot on? Usually it's not quite right. And we get frustrated or irritated with all the advice because we know it's not spot on. Well, how do we find the spot on advice? We have to go within. So my journey has been about deeper and deeper, going within and beginning to trust my own resourcefulness inside of me and my own ability to tap into the wisdom that I need. Um, it's not about figuring out what I got to do so much as just listening for it. Like, like we know that we haven't rested enough and that we ought to just get more rest, or we know that we ought to get more movement or eat better foods. We know these things. We don't really need to go to a doctor to hear that. Usually that alone is it's like a first things first approach. Most of us don't go there until later. We try to find a medicine or a supplement or a this or that. And it's only much later, if ever, that we actually go to the source of where the healing really comes
It
from.
comes down to taking personal responsibility for
Yes.
yourself and,
And for your,
yes, and for your healing. And
yeah.
yeah, go to the doctor if you're got something critically wrong with you. But if it's just something that's chronically wrong with you, you probably need to look at your lifestyle and start to ask yourself, where can I make changes? And they don't have to be like, you don't have to change your whole life overnight. It never happens that way. It's slow, incremental things that you can do. You talked about showing up on the yoga mat. Yeah, you can show up on the yoga mat every day, even if it's for 3 minutes. You can meditate, even if it's for just a minute in the beginning, because it's hard to learn how to meditate effectively. But when you do it, eventually an hour will go by and you're going to feel like it was, 3 minutes. It just happens that way. You learn
I
how
do
to
my
get
best to
into
help.
those states.
I do my best to help people get really inspired about that approach
Mhm.
because we tend to think it sounds hard, like you said, and it sounds like responsibility, and it sounds like I don't know how to do it. But in my own gentle, compassionate way, I help people find a real inspiration in taking care of ourselves that way because it starts to feel really beautiful. And some of the stress of the health seeking search kind of starts to fall away. And it's like, let me just surrender into what's more, what feels better, what's more natural, what does my body really want? Because we can go and take drugs and sometimes they might be helpful, but more often than not, they all have side effects and they're not really taking us to a sustainable, real cure, right? And that's what we ultimately really want is a sustainable path that's healthy every day.
And easy. And
It
I
becomes easy
love
to learn.
I
Yes.
love that your diet is mainly raw, which is easy because you don't have to cook by definition, and a lot of fruit. And we've heard so much about, the getting away from carbs thing. Um, and I know so many vegetarians that are so unhealthy because they think that, cookies and potato chips, while they may be vegetarian, are not healthy options. But the idea of, embracing eating fruit tastes good. Fruit is very natural. A lot of times you can find fruit from your neighbor's yard or even your own yard if you have fruit trees. I'm an avid
In
fruit
fact,
tree grower.
can you think of any other food on the entire planet that comes in a package naturally that already looks beautiful, smells yummy, tastes delicious, is very satisfying and satiating because it has the natural sugars that we need because our trillions of cells actually want glucose. And it's a simple carb. So it gives us the carbohydrates in the form that we're meant to take them in versus the complex carbohydrates like starches, like the grains and
Mhm.
the root veggies and stuff. So the fruit is really the superfood. And so I do base my dietary intake around fruit as the center of it in terms of, so if the sun is out, I'm eating fruit, right, during the day. So I'm eating fruit when I get hungry in the morning, fruit again in the middle of the day, fruit again later in the day, and then I'll usually make some kind of salad meal that might have some kind of greens like romaine lettuce and some cucumbers, and I might put some fruit on there like some blackberries I have tonight. I might I'll often make a dressing, which might be also fruit based, or it might not. It might be like tahini and lemon juice as a dressing. I might have a little bit of other nuts or seeds. But it's a very high carbohydrate, but that kind of carbohydrate, and a low or appropriate amount of fat, which is really much lower than most people believe, because the fats are much harder to digest and they will slow us down. And so when you gradually move yourself toward a more fruit centric, lower fat kind of a diet, it releases tremendous amounts of energy for other things. Because think about it, I mean, conducting emotions and digesting food are two of the biggest energy suckers that we have in our life. So if we can learn to, deal with our emotions appropriately, and get the drama out and get more grounded, and eat food that doesn't tax our system so much, can you imagine how much nervous system energy is now available for dreaming, being, creating, moving, doing things, living? We don't feel so bogged down anymore. So that's part of the pain-free secret, is to, first of all, get an understanding of where pain originates from, because most of it's coming from the mind. Even the physical body pains that we have are originating. The mind is telling us to feel pain there, and then we focus on it, and then we get more tightened up and painful, right? And then we worry about it, and then we're afraid about it, and the whole thing cascades into like a snowball. And so to understand our role in creating the pain and where that pain comes from, and then to reconnect with nature, that pillar of nature that helps us understand how we're meant to live and helps us ground ourselves there, and then to deal with the mind, to deal with the quality of our thoughts and beliefs, and make sure that we are clear on what our true values are, and to be really radically honest with ourselves. Because I mean, I have claimed this for myself. I've been such a people pleaser all my life. It's been a really a big transformative thing to realize that, because I would twist myself in knots trying to be a good person and do the right thing for somebody else, and not really be honest with what I really wanted, how I really felt. A lot of chronic pain, which I've dealt with, can come from suppressing what we're really feeling, not being in touch with what we're really actually feeling. So I was taught by a mentor to ask myself, when I have pain in my body, what am I not letting myself feel right now? In what way am I just, soldiering on without tuning in? So we get really out of alignment, out of attunement. And it's way more powerful than any drug or therapy or medicinal anything, to just, work our way back into a better attunement and a better alignment with ourself and with how we're designed to live. And I know we have to live in the modern world. I don't like to call it the real world, because to me it doesn't actually feel like the real world. But
The world we've
the
created.
modern world is very demanding, and it is hard to be a human under these circumstances. And so we can just acknowledge that, and then do the best we can to find ways in our life. And like you said, you don't necessarily have to leave your job or your marriage or where you live or any of that. You can find it right where you are. You just start somewhere and start reconnecting with these natural, sort of essential and eternal truths about who we are and how we're designed to live.
I
And
have a practice that's coming up soon. In the summer, I have raspberries, and I have a lot of raspberries,
nice.
bushes in my backyard. And my dog, who is a forager, he and I will go out in the afternoon every day in our bare feet. He's always got bare feet. And we
Yes.
will pick raspberries off the bush, and there will be more tomorrow. But
You know
it
what you
just
bring up? Every animal, every species besides us is barefoot all the time, and they're in contact with a natural surface at all times, you know, whether it's their feet on a tree branch or on the ground or in the water, right? They're always connected to the sort of magnetic forces of the earth and the sky and the sun. And I read a book once that said, I think it was the book called Earthing. It said the single worst thing we ever did for our health was to invent rubber bottomed shoes that disconnected us. And then we've been taught to be afraid of the sun, you know, and then we
yes.
become afraid of the elements. And so we're in these boxes that are perfectly climatized with air conditioning and heat and whatever. And we hesitate to go outside, and we just get really like, we're electrical beings, and we get electrically disconnected. It's very
It's
profound what happens.
reprogrammed in some ways because we have electrical wiring all around us and we have
Yeah,
EMF running
it's
through.
disrupted.
Yeah, it just really disrupts us. We need to close our phones. When I walk in the morning, and I have firm boundaries around an hour every morning, I walk with my husband and my dog. We leave our phones at home.
Good.
The world can get rid of, they don't need to get a hold of us
It wasn't
all the
that
time.
long ago that we didn't have phones on our bodies. I mean,
Yeah, I
you and
remember
I
that.
grew up in a time and we still had the phone stuck to the wall, and when you went out, there was no phone with you ever, and people could wait. And the other thing
Yeah,
that all the other species do is they eat one food at a time.
yes.
They only eat of their biological design unless they're scrounging in our dumpsters or something, right? If they've been displaced. But in the wild, they only eat what they're biologically designed to eat, and they're blueprinted to know that, just like we are. If we get back in touch, we know that fruit sounds great. And they don't make recipes like we do. You know, that's just a creative emotional need. We don't actually biologically need to make recipes with our food. We don't need 10 different things on our plate. We can make our meals very, very
Designed to
simple.
sell stuff.
We get the variety over time rather than right on one plate. And so I do really well on the mono meals. So I do make a salad often, which has 3 or 4 ingredients, but my morning meal is just one type of fruit. You know, my middle of the day meal is one type of fruit, unless I put 2 fruits in a smoothie. That's about as exotic as it gets. Because the less ingredients, the simpler it is to digest, the more energy available for other things. And the first thing your very intelligent, infinitely wise body will do is use that freed up energy to heal itself. That's the first thing it'll do. And so you may feel tired at first because the body has a lot of healing to do. It's trying to detox, get rid of a lot of toxins that have built up. It might be eating up a tumor somewhere. You don't know what it's doing, but it's very wise, and it's always working in your best interest, always. Even if it's throwing out symptoms, like you get a rash on your skin or something, instead of covering that up with a drug, if we will just trust that our body's working in our favor and cleaning house, then we can relax and let the symptoms come and just, you know, rest and support it, and then it'll be out. And will be that much better versus suppressing it with a medication or a lotion, because then it's like you're going against what the body was trying to do, and it will find another avenue which might be more uncomfortable. So, you know, part of
Yes.
living with less pain, and I have to qualify the pain-free idea, because what I really mean is that we learn to live in a peaceful relationship with the inevitable pains of life. You know, nobody has a completely pain-free existence. There is physical pain, there is emotional pain, but um, we learn to live with it in a peaceful way, right? And when we do that, and we also learn to live more naturally, it most of it goes away. So that's the beautiful result. And when it is there, we don't get upset about it. We just work with it, you know. So what do I need now? You know, what is this pain in my body telling me? What message is trying to get through to me? Can I be still and listen and work with it? And then it's not a war zone going on. We're not angry with the body for expressing a symptom. We're thankful that it's waking us up to give us a message that we need to hear. That's a very different relationship with the body, right? It's more
Okay.
harmonious. It's like it's our best friend.
And you have a book or a guide, The Three Secrets to Pain-Free Living. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is actually just a free guide that you can pick up by going to my website and signing up for my newsletter. The other way you can, get connected with me is through my blog on Substack. I started it in order to help me write this book. So the very first few blogs are actually chapters in this book ultimately, which is called Following Nature Home. And and then that got me back into a practice of publishing something weekly. And so I just kept going. And now 2.5 years later, I've been posting every week. So all of that writing is archived there, and you can just enjoy picking through it for free. I have a free or paid subscribership, so you can connect with me there.
I love Substack.
Yeah, it's
It's
been really fun. It's a beautiful way because it doesn't have the sort of hyper viral kind of pressure of like the other social media like Facebook and Instagram. It's just a place for really high quality creativity to be happening and sharing with other creatives.
and it allows you as a creator to share your content with people that are interested in it. So it goes right to their email box. If
Yeah.
somebody subscribes to your content, when you create new content, it shows up and they know it's from you. And
Mine comes out every Sunday morning at 9, and there are people who look for it Sunday mornings at 9.
Mhm.
And there it is in their inbox. They don't have to go looking for it. And so that's been a nice way to build a relationship through Substack. It's also not, it's very, it encourages longer form content,
Mhm.
like
In
a
all
real,
of its
a
forms.
meaningful article rather than a little sound bite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people find you on Substack
So
and on your
Substack is Ellen, I think it's just ellenlivingston.substack.com, or you can go to my website, ellenlivingston.com. And there's also a blog tab there that you can go to Substack. And the two books I've written and a few other CDs and things I've made, DVDs, are at my website. These are the two books. My first book I wrote maybe 15 years ago was really more like a handbook for my students at the time to understand, kind of like what this dietary path is about and why you would want to do it, and everything you'd need to know in less than 100 pages that's important to know to be able to just sort of get started and think about it.
on
And
the
then
raw food diet?
on
Is
the raw vegan high fruit. And when I say fruitarian, I'll just qualify, I don't mean only fruit. I use that term fairly loosely. Some people are more strict about it, but it's a fruit centric diet. So my calories are mostly coming from fruit, but I do eat, like I said, greens and some vegetables, nuts and seeds. Um, so that's this book. The second one I wrote when I was turning 60, and I was sort of I had crossed the 20-year mark on this path. And I had this thought that was like a big aha moment, like these big passages were happening in my life. And so I decided to write about it. So it's a collection of essays that goes more deeply into my emotional and spiritual journey on this path, for other people to just sort of get an insight into where it took me, and what a beautiful path it continues to be. So I will not turn back. There's no reason to not. Once you've seen, you can't unsee. Once you've felt, you can't unknow that. So
I feel like it's a box. We all come in this box. We're balls of light. And once the box opens up, the light escapes and you can never put light back in the box.
you shared with me before we came live that your middle name is Ellen, and that Ellen means bright light.
Yep.
And I've known that it meant light, and but we are all bright light beings,
Mhm.
and we forget that. We get obscured in the darkness, but when we get back in touch with that light, it just, even if you just start to understand that you're headed in a good direction, you start to feel lighter and happier. It's an illusion that we're all confused. I think we use that as an excuse that we're so confused we can't move forward. But there's no need to be so confused. You can take back the power to find your clarity and start moving in that direction, and you'll feel better just that you know that you're on the right track.
You don't have to control everything. You only
No, and
have
you
to
don't have to
control
get there
yourself.
at a particular timing. You just start moving in a better direction, making healthier choices, getting
Mhm.
that kind of support on your path and going into some more stillness. And I do support people through one-on-one mentoring. And this is the kind of work we do. I'm really just there as a mentor to help people gain the confidence to revisit and reconnect with their own inner guidance system and spend more time there. And people are scared of going there alone. So I just kind of hold their hand a little bit and walk them into their own knowing, and then they start to blossom.
You have a community too, don't you?
I've had many communities over my life, so I'm part of a raw food community. In fact, if you want some raw food community up in Michigan this summer, I will be teaching at a raw retreat festival kind of thing in Gaylord, Michigan, August 10th to the 14th, and there's still a little bit of camping space left. I'll be camping. And so those events are fantastic because we have a large raw food community that comes, a large fruit-based raw food community that comes together to celebrate with each other. And there's teachings and movement classes, and it's all raw fruit-based food being served. And so it's a lot of fun. And I'll be there with a lot of other leaders in this movement this summer. So that would be one way to, connect with real live in-person community soon.
Awesome.
I've
Awesome.
also offered, fruit lucks, we call them, raw food potlucks at my houses over the years for decades. So,
That sounds like fun too.
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor.
To learn more about Ellen and to get access to her free 3 secrets to pain-free living, visit ellenlivingston.com, and we'll be sure to put the links for all of her offerings in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting one to get your message in front of our huge and active audience, be sure to reach out to us at jill@gnostictv.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this on the Gnostic TV network platform. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today.